Have you ever wondered why some of the most brilliant minds in history seem so calm in chaos, so grounded in uncertainty, and so clear while the rest of us feel lost? It's not just talent. It's not just intelligence. It's something deeper. They begin their mornings differently, not with noise, but with intention. Not chasing the world, but shaping themselves before the world can shape them. The ancient Stoics, from emperors to exiled philosophers, left us a blueprint, a way to rise each day, not overwhelmed, but prepared. In this video, you'll discover 10 things Stoic-minded geniuses do every morning. Simple practices that build inner power, sharpen the mind, and align life with purpose. These aren't self-help cliché. These are timeless disciplines, quiet habits that forged unshakable character in the minds of the greatest thinkers who ever lived. So take a breath and let's begin. Because the way you start your morning is the way you start your life. 1. Wake up early to master themselves. Before the world wakes up, before the city hums, before any demands are placed upon you, there is silence, stillness. And in that silence, the Stoics believed, lies one of the greatest opportunities for self-mastery. Waking up early is not just a productivity hack. For the Stoics, and for the modern genius, it's a ritual of the soul. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his private journals, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." This wasn't about squeezing more tasks into the day. It was about waking up for a purpose. To practice virtue, to become better, to engage fully with the human experience. Geniuses who live by Stoic values don't wake early because it's trendy. They wake early because the first hour of the day is when the war of the mind is either won or lost. It is in this first hour that the self is either ruled or seduced by comfort. Let's be honest, your bed will always feel warmer than your discipline. The temptation to stay in bed is the same as the temptation to avoid growth, to stay comfortable, to resist the challenge. And so to rise early is not just about time. It's a symbolic victory, a small act of rebellion against passivity. Acquiesce déclaration. I will not sleep through my life. The Stoics believed in living intentionally, and there's no better time to practice intention than the first moments of your day. Waking up early offers you space, not to rush, but to breathe, to reflect, to prepare, to arm your mind before the noise and demands of the outside world crash in. It's the sacred window where the mind is clean, unpolluted by emails, messages, or comparison. This is where geniuses create their edge. They journal, they read philosophy, they visualize the kind of person they want to be. They anticipate the challenges they'll face and decide how they will respond, not react. They are not waking up for a to-do list. They are waking up for inner alignment. Because once the day begins, once the chaos starts, it's harder to pause, to reflect, to ground yourself. But if you've already won the morning, you move through the day with clarity, not confusion, with virtue, not impulse, with agency, not reaction. And yes, it will be hard at first. You will want to go back to sleep. You will argue with your alarm. But this is the exact place where mastery begins. Not in grand decisions, but in these tiny, invisible choices. The choice to rise, to begin again, to greet the day not as a victim, but as a Stoic. Reflection. Think of the early hour not as a chore, but as a temple, a space carved out for who you truly want to become. Before the world tells you what you should do, you decide who you will be. Because mastery doesn't begin in front of an audience. It begins in the dark, quiet room where no one is watching. but you still choose disciplina over delay. So tomorrow, when the alarm rings, don't argue, don't wait, don't scroll. Rise, stand, and become the kind of person who doesn't wait to live their life. They begin it while the rest of the world is still asleep. 2. Remember that today could be their last. Memento mori. Most people wake up assuming they'll live forever. They check their phones. They scroll through headlines. They complain about meetings or traffic or emails. They live as if time is infinite. But a Stoic genius wakes up with one chilling, liberating thought: I could die today. And that changes everything. This idea is not meant to depress. It's meant to awaken. Memento mori. Remember you must die is not about fear. It's about focus. Because once you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on what doesn't matter. You stop arguing about nonsense. You stop obsessing over things outside your control. You stop delaying the life you truly want to live. In the writings of Marcus Aurelius, he reminds himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He wasn't being dramatic. He was being realistic. Because death is not an event in the future. It's a shadow that walks with us every day. Quiet, invisible, but always near. And geniuses choose to walk beside that shadow with eyes wide open. Each morning they ask, if today were my last, what would I regret not doing? How would I treat the people around me? What conversations would I no longer postpone? What would I finally stop worrying about? They don't wait for a terminal diagnosis to start living fully. They don't need a near-death experience to gain perspective. They choose to live with urgency, not anxiety, because they know every moment is a gift on loan, not a right. Most people think they have time, and that illusion is the most dangerous assumption of all. Stoic geniuses write these words in their journal, silently in the early morning light. Memento mori, not as a warning, but as a call to courage. Because when death is real to you, so is life. You don't say later to your dreams. You don't wait for the right time. You don't postpone difficult conversations. You don't seek perfection before starting. You begin now, not with panic, but with clarity, presence, and purpose. When you remember that today might be your last, you finally live like it matters. You say, I love you without ego. You forgive what once felt unforgivable. You slow down enough to see the sky, feel your breath, hear the silence. And strangely, this daily practice of remembering death is what makes life feel most alive. Reflection. You don't need more time. You need more awareness of the time you already have. Memento mori isn't meant to make you somber. It's meant to strip away distraction and show you what truly matters. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, take one quiet moment. Place your hand over your heart. Feel it beating and whisper to yourself, if this is my last day, how will I live it well? Let that question shape your choices. Let it humble your pride. Let it set you free from the petty and the performative. Because the person who remembers death every morning lives with more peace, more urgency, and more purpose than the person who forgets it. 3. Express gratitude for simple things. In a world obsessed with more wealth, more fame, more comfort, Stoic geniuses begin their morning by appreciating less, not because they lack ambition, but because they understand a deeper truth. Gratitude is not for what is extraordinary, it's for what is real. The Stoics weren't interested in luxury. They didn't believe happiness came from fortune, power, or external status. They believed it came from perspective, the ability to value what we already have. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, wrote, "He is a great man who uses earthenware dishes as if they were silver, but he is equally great who uses silver as if it were earthenware." In other words, a Stoic genius doesn't wait for ideal conditions to feel grateful. They don't wait for success to smile. They don't wait for pleasure to appreciate. They practice gratitude, especially when it's hardest. Each morning, before facing the chaos of the day, they pause. They look around and see what most people overlook: a body that can move and breathe, a mind that can reflect and reason, a roof overhead, a single ray of light entering the room, the fact that they woke up at all, because nothing is promised. And yet, we're so quick to complain when even the smallest thing goes wrong, while ignoring the miracle of being alive. Stoic gratitude is not loud. It's not performative. It doesn't need to be posted online. It's a silent, daily ritual of appreciation, a kind of spiritual armor against entitlement, envy, and despair. It reminds the genius not to seek more, but to see more. Where most people see ordinary moments, they see blessings. Where most see inconvenience, they see training. Where most see lack, they see abundance. And this shift changes everything. Gratitude trains the mind to expect less and receive more. It reduces the noise of craving. It calms the heart's restlessness. It restores the soul to what's already here, not what's out of reach. That's why Stoic geniuses write it down. 3 things every morning. Simple, quiet, intencional. They know the mind naturally drifts toward what's missing, so they redirect it, gently, consistently toward what's already good. Not perfect, just good. And in doing so, they build an inner wealth that no economy can touch. Because when you are deeply grateful, you are already rich. Reflection: you don't need a perfect life to be grateful. You need a trained mind. Gratitude in Stoicism is not a feeling. It's a discipline. It's the daily decision to anchor yourself in reality, not fantasy. So tomorrow morning, before you ask for anything, give thanks for everything. Not because you should, but because it's the only way to meet life with humility, clarity, and peace. The person who begins each day with gratitude for the breath, for the struggle, for the sky, walks through life with a kind of untouchable strength. That's the genius of the Stoic way. It doesn't add more to your life. It simply teaches you to see what was valuable all along. 4. Review their true purpose, not just their goals. Every morning, the average person wakes up thinking about goals, things to achieve, deadlines to meet, numbers to hit, tasks to complete. But the Stoic genius? They rise not thinking of what they want to achieve, but of who they want to become. Because goals are temporary. They come and go. They change with the seasons, with trends, with age. But purpose is eternal. It's the anchor that keeps you steady in chaos, the compass that points north when everything else spins. And the Stoics believed deeply in aligning daily life with that greater purpose. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up each day hoping to be liked, to win an award, or to impress the Senate. He woke up asking, "Am I fulfilling the duty of a rational, moral being today?" For the Stoic, the purpose of life is not comfort, status, or control. It's to live in accordance with nature, to act with virtue, to develop character, to use your reason to do good. This is why geniuses grounded in Stoicism don't waste mornings obsessing over success metrics. Instead, they reflect, am I becoming more patient? Did I act with courage yesterday? Did I speak truth when it was difficult? Did I let my emotions control me? Or did I respond with clarity? These aren't the questions on a corporate checklist, but they are the questions that lead to a meaningful life. Because here's the paradox. The more you chase goals without purpose, the emptier your victories feel. But when you root your goals in purpose, you no longer need the outcome to feel whole. You become satisfied by the process itself. You find peace in right action, not in recognition. You keep moving forward, even when no one sees. This is what makes the Stoic genius unshakable. While others burn out chasing results, they rise each day centered in the why behind it all. And so, in the early hours, before emails, before calls, they take time to review that purpose. Sometimes in silence, sometimes through journaling, sometimes by simply reminding themselves, I am not here to win. I am here to grow. They don't let the world define their meaning. They define it intentionally, privately, consistently, because clarity of purpose is not something you find once and keep forever. It's something you return to daily, like a sacred flame that must be tended. Reflection. You are more than your calendar, more than your deadlines, more than your milestones. You are a soul on a path, and your purpose is not found in finishing more tasks, but in becoming more aligned. So tomorrow morning, don't just check your goals. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing today aligned with who I'm trying to be? Because if the answer is no, then all the success in the world will never feel like enough. But if the answer is yes, even if the progress is slow, you will walk through life with a quiet, powerful confidence. That's the mark of a true Stoic genius. They may move slowly, but they never move without meaning. 5. Guard their minds before the world invades. Most people don't begin the day with intention. They begin with reaction. A screen lights up, a message pops in, a headline provokes, and before they've even taken a conscious breath, their mind is already under siege. But a Stoic genius? They treat the mind like a temple, and a temple must be protected. Seneca varnet. If you do not control your mind, someone else will. That's why the Stoic genius does something different. They begin each morning with a deliberate act of mental defense. Before the notifications, before the algorithms, before the opinions of others flood in, because they know once the gates are open, it's hard to tell what thoughts are yours and which ones were downloaded without permission. Our minds are not passive, they are porous. And if you do not train them to filter, they will absorb everything. Fear, envy, outrage, comparison, distraction. So the Stoic genius begins the day not by checking in with the world, but by checking in with themselves. They sit in silence. They meditate. They write. They ask, what do I want to think about today? What deserves my attention? What is within my control? What noise must I ignore? The world is loud, and it profits from your anxiety. Every app, every headline, every scroll, it pulls you outward. But Stoicism is a philosophy of returning inward, to clarity, to virtue, to reason. This is why the genius does not start the day with the news. Because they understand, you can't solve the world's problems if you haven't yet stabilized your own mind. They do not scroll through conflict before cultivating peace. They do not open the gates to chaos before centering in calm. Their morning is a fortress, and only what aligns with their values is allowed in. They guard their thoughts the way a warrior guards a city. Not with fear, but with respect for how powerful the mind truly is. Because every idea you consume becomes part of your inner architecture, and once built, it shapes how you see everything. So, what will you allow in? Resentment or resilience? Panic or perspective? Noise or wisdom? The Stoic genius knows. What enters the mind enters the life. That's why their mornings are sacred. Not because they are special, but because they understand that if they lose the morning, they risk losing the whole day. Reflection. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. And in this age of infinite information, guarding your attention is an act of rebellion and of wisdom. So tomorrow morning, before you open your phone, before you let the world tell you who to be or what to fear, take one breath and ask, who do I want to be before the world tells me who I should be? Silence is not emptiness, it's protection. Start your day from the inside out, not the outside in. Because the person who commands their mind doesn't just survive the world, they shape it. 6. Practice voluntary discomfort to build resilience. To most people, discomfort is a problem to be solved. It's something to avoid, to remove, to escape. But to a Stoic genius, discomfort is a teacher, one of the most honest, powerful, and reliable instructors in life. Every morning, while the world searches for warmth, ease, and pleasure, the Stoic-minded individual chooses to step intentionally into discomfort. Why? Because they know the path of least resistance may feel good now, but it rarely leads to greatness later. Sanetsarot. Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition that I feared? He was describing a practice called voluntary discomfort, deliberately choosing a little less comfort each day, to build spiritual and mental armor. And the modern Stoic genius takes this to heart. They do small things each morning that the average person avoids. Taking cold showers to train the body against softness. Sitting still in meditation despite restlessness. Fasting briefly to feel hunger without reacting. Walking instead of driving. Delaying indulgence for the sake of discipline. These aren't acts of self-punishment. They're acts of self-preparation. They are rituals of resilience. Because a life that is too comfortable is a life that is mentally fragile. When we avoid discomfort at all costs, we lose the ability to endure even minor hardship. We become emotionally reactive, physically weak, spiritually untrained. But when you choose discomfort on your terms, in small doses, with awareness, you regain control. You learn that pain is not the enemy. That hunger is not an emergency. That silence is not punishment. That challenge is not a threat. The Stoic genius knows that resilience is not built during peace. It's built in friction. And by stepping voluntarily into discomfort in the morning, they rehearse for adversity before it arrives. So when life throws something unexpected, a rejection, a loss, a betrayal, an injury, they are not shaken. They've already trained for it. Not by reading about hardship, but by touching it, welcoming it, and growing through it every single morning. It's a paradox of strength. The more you expose yourself to discomfort intentionally, the more you become unbreakable accidentally. Reflection. Comfort will never teach you what discomfort can. So tomorrow morning, don't just ask yourself, what will make me feel good? Ask instead, what will make me stronger? Choose one thing, one small discomfort. Step into it with calm. Feel the resistance, and then do it anyway. Because the genius who trains in discomfort walks through life with a rare kind of peace, the peace of knowing, I can endure. I have already endured. The modern world seduces us with softness, but the Stoic path calls us to courage. And in that calling, we remember what it means to be fully alive, not because life is easy, but because we've trained our spirit to meet it with strength. 7. Write reflectively in a morning journal. In a world that moves faster than the human mind can process, writing slowly, intentionally, is a radical act. Most people wake up and rush. They leap into their phones, into their to-do list. But the Stoic genius? They begin their day with something ancient, powerful, and quiet. Reflection through journaling. It's not about being poetic. It's not for productivity hacks. It's not even to feel better. It's to understand the self, to return to reason, to practice philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most well-known Stoic, wasn't writing for anyone else. His famous book, Meditations, it was his private journal, a space where he examined his fears, sharpened his values, reminded himself of mortality, and held himself accountable. He wrote things like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't for an audience. It was for his own soul. And that's how Stoic geniuses still approach journaling today. Every morning, before the noise of the world begins, they put pen to paper. Not because they are lost, but because they want to stay centered. What do they write? It's not complicated, but it's powerful. What am I grateful for today? What do I fear? And why? What virtues will I practice today? What challenge might I face? And how will I respond with wisdom instead of emotion? Did I live yesterday according to my principles? Or did I drift? This quiet inquiry, this written dialogue with the self creates awareness. And awareness is the foundation of every meaningful life. Without reflection, we are just reacting, drifting, repeating old patterns, pretending we're progressing. But with reflection, even 5 minutes of it, we begin to see where we're going, what we're avoiding, who we're becoming. Journaling is not about writing what happened. It's about writing who you are in relation to what happened. And that changes everything. Because the Stoic genius isn't trying to control the world. They are trying to control their response to the world. And journaling sharpens that response. It calms the emotional storm. It untangles mental knots. It gives form to invisible thoughts. And most of all, it reminds the writer that they are not a passive participant in life, but an active creator of their character. Reflection. You don't need a fancy notebook. You don't need to write perfectly. You just need to begin, honestly. Each word is a mirror. Each sentence is a compass. And over time, those quiet pages become a map, a way back to your truest self, when the world tries to make you forget. So tomorrow morning, before the noise, before the rush, before the expectations, sit down, take a breath. Ask yourself one real question and write. Not to impress, not to perform, but to return, to presence, to purpose, to peace. Because the genius doesn't need applause. They just need alignment, and a single page, written in silence, can be the most powerful beginning of all. 8. Identify emotions they must govern today. The world teaches us to chase productivity, to track tasks, to measure results. But the Stoic genius begins each day by tracking something far more powerful and far more dangerous if left unexamined: emotions. Because no matter how smart you are, no matter how talented, disciplined, or well-intentioned, your emotions, if left unchecked, can sabotage it all. The Stoics didn't reject emotion. They acknowledged its force, but they believed that reason must lead emotion, not the other way around. Seneca varanit. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. And how do we prove ourselves? Not by avoiding difficulty, but by remaining master of ourselves within it. That begins in the morning. Before the world provokes you, before someone cuts you off in traffic, before the email that frustrates, before the news that angers, the Stoic genius looks inward and asks, What emotional triggers might I encounter today? Where might I feel anger, jealousy, fear, pride, or insecurity? How will I respond, not react, when those moments arrive? This is not overthinking. This is mental armor. You don't wait for a storm to build a shelter. You prepare in advance. And this emotional preparation becomes a daily discipline. It's a training of the heart, because the Stoic genius knows that most people are owned by their emotions. But they choose to own their emotions instead. Let's be honest. Everyone gets annoyed. Everyone feels fear. Everyone battles pride. But only those who study their emotional landscape in advance can remain calm when the storm comes. So the morning becomes a kind of meditation, a rehearsal for the hardest moments of the day. And it's done, not with judgment, but with clarity. They don't say, "I must never feel anger." They say, "When I feel it, I will see it. I will name it, and I will decide what it deserves, not what it demands." This is the difference between the reactive and the wise, between chaos and peace, between being ruled and ruling the self. Reflection. Your mind is not a battlefield. It is a kingdom. And the thoughts, emotions, and impulses that rise each day are not invaders. They are messengers. But it is you who must decide which messages are worth following. So tomorrow morning, before the first problem, before the first confrontation, before the first wave of doubt, ask yourself, which emotion must I govern today? Not suppress, not deny, but govern with reason, patience, and compassion. Because emotional mastery is not about becoming robotic, it's about becoming conscious. And when you begin the day with emotional clarity, you walk through chaos like water flowing around stone, unafraid, unshaken, unmoved by noise. Because the most powerful person in any room is the one who doesn't let their emotions drive the wheel. 9. Prepare to meet difficult people calmly. Most people are surprised when they encounter rudeness. They're offended by betrayal. They're shocked by ignorance. They act as if the world owes them peace and that everyone should be thoughtful, kind, or self-aware. But the Stoic genius? They expect it. Not in a cynical way, but in a prepared way. Before the day begins, they quietly remind themselves, "Today I will meet people who are arrogant, greedy, jealous, rude, dishonest, selfish, and unaware. But I will not be surprised." This is not pessimism. It is mental fortification. It comes directly from Marcus Aurelius himself, the Roman emperor who ruled over millions, and yet still had to remind himself every morning that some people would behave poorly. Why? Because expectation shapes reaction. If you expect people to be perfect, you will be constantly angry. If you expect them to be human, you can meet them with grace. The Stoic genius knows that they cannot control other people. They cannot prevent someone from being rude, loud, manipulative, or cruel, but they can prepare. They can practice calm in advance. They can anticipate the moment and choose to meet it without losing themselves. And so, in the quiet of morning, they rehearse a kind of mental script. If someone insults me, I will not retaliate. If someone lies to me, I will not be shaken. If someone acts with ego, I will act with virtue. Their behavior does not determine my character. This mindset isn't weakness. It's strength. Because calm in the face of chaos is a kind of power that no one can fake. Most people match energy. If someone yells, they yell back. If someone gossips, they gossip back. If someone betrays, they scheme in return. But the Stoic genius operates on principle, not impulse. They do not let difficult people turn them into difficult people. They do not trade peace for pride. They do not lose sleep over opinions they do not respect. And more importantly, they refuse to let someone else's behavior determine the temperature of their inner world. They understand that emotional control is freedom, and if someone can trigger you, manipulate you, or anger you with ease, then they own you. So the genius prepares, not for a fight, but for a test of self-governance. They do not build walls. They build awareness. They do not seek to avoid all conflict. They seek to enter it with clarity, calm, and compassion. This is what makes them unshakable, because while others waste their mornings worrying about what others might say or do, the Stoic genius simply prepares to remain unchanged. Reflection. You cannot stop difficult people from showing up, but you can stop them from breaking your peace. So tomorrow morning, ask yourself, who might I meet today that will test my patience? What kind of energy will I allow into my space? And what will I let pass through me like wind? Because the real test of strength is not how you treat the easy people, but how you remain yourself in the presence of the hard ones. And the person who prepares each morning, not with weapons, but with wisdom, will move through even the most hostile world with the calm of a mountain that does not shake for storms. 10. Set the intention to act with virtue no matter what happens. The world is unpredictable. You can plan every hour of your day and still be blindsided by chaos. A phone call, a comment, an event, a mood, a mistake. But the Stoic genius doesn't seek to control the world. They focus on controlling just one thing: how they respond. And so, every morning they begin not by asking, "What will today bring me?" but, "Who will I choose to be, no matter what today brings?" This is the core of Stoicism, not detachment, not emotionlessness, but the daily choice to live by virtue, courage, justice, temperance, wisdom. These are not ideas to admire. They are principles to embody, and the Stoic genius sets their intention, quietly, deliberately, to live by them, whatever the cost. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his journal, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Such clarity, such simplicity, such power. Because when you begin your day with that kind of ethical anchor, you don't get lost in emotion or opinion. You don't waver with every inconvenience. You don't bend to pressure or popularity. You act with virtue. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Let others gossip. Let others chase status. Let others cut corners. The Stoic genius sets a higher bar. They know success without virtue is empty, that winning without integrity is failure in disguise, that pleasure without purpose is fleeting. And so, instead of rushing into the day, they pause, they breathe, and they ask themselves, will I act with courage, even if I'm afraid? Will I remain just, even when others are unfair? Will I practice temperance, even when tempted? Will I apply wisdom, even when emotion wants control? This morning ritual is not grand. It's not loud. It doesn't require a stage, a crowd, or applause. It requires only this: a commitment to character, to consistency, to becoming the kind of person you'd respect in private. Because in the end, no one else's behavior can rob you of your integrity. Only you can hand it away. So the Stoic genius guards it with their life. They do not act out of impulse. They act out of principle. They do not ask, what will I get today? They ask, what will I give today? And whatever happens, success, failure, praise, insult, they end the day not asking if it went well. They ask if they remained true. That's all that matters. Reflection. Your character is your fate, And every morning is a chance to shape it, not by what you say, but by how you live. So tomorrow, before you step into the world, set your compass not toward comfort, not toward validation, but toward virtue. Whisper to yourself, today, I will act with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom, no matter what the world throws at me. And then, whatever happens, you've already won. Because true greatness isn't found in outcomes. It's found in the soul of the one who refuses to compromise their values, even when no one's watching. That is what makes a Stoic, and what makes a genius. The modern world will keep pulling you in 100 directions. But the Stoic genius walks a different path. A slower one, a quieter one, a wiser one. They don't react, they respond. They don't chase, they choose. And every choice begins in the morning. So the question now is, which of these habits will you try tomorrow? Let us know in the comments below. Which Stoic morning ritual spoke to you the most? And if this video helped realign your mindset, don't forget to like it, share it with someone who needs more peace in their mornings, and subscribe for more content that strengthens the soul, not just the schedule. Because in the end, the most powerful thing you can do every day is not to control the world, but to master yourself. Thank you for watching. And may tomorrow begin with clarity, courage, and calm.